Hello, everyone, and thank you again for tuning in. My name is Frank Farm, as you already know. Um, Such powerful episodes as In Too Deep, as well as Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend. And now comes an episode that is very controversial. Trigger warnings. There will be things talked about in this episode that you may not want to get into. And fair warning, it's one of those red pills or blue pill things. You take that blue pill, you really don't have to worry about feeling some type of way. You don't have to worry about uh, thinking on it too strongly and going on rants. You take that red pill, you're Alice, and we see how deep that rabbit hole gets. So, without further ado, I like to give thanks to our sponsors. We all go through tough times from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, second to second. And we have those friends, we have those family members that we go and we confide in and we talk to and we truly feel comfortable with. And that's awesome. But not all of us have the tools that are necessary to help. Some of us can be a listening ear, and sometimes that helps. But in order to get better, we need to use the right tools. And the right tools are located at betterhelp.com if you don't feel comfortable going to a sit down in person therapist. You can talk to them online through video call. You can even text them. And they have over thousands, and I repeat, thousands of specific, very specific, tooled therapists that have various methods of going about it to help you get to your resolution. So, again, if you're going through things, go to betterhelp.com /last son 23. Get 15% off your first month. Now, without further ado, how do I begin? I guess I start with the problem with black people. So, here's how this goes. Black people in America will never come together collectively as a unit. And I say that with a straight face. And I say that, with every heart, but it's true. But it's not for the reasons that you think. Far before slavery and territory and jealousy and hypocrisy, it goes back to a deeper reasoning. Man was jealous of man since the dawn. You have Cain, jealous of Abel, and he slew him. So, with that being said, it's like this: the genetic makeup for evil, or even just bad, exists in us all. But it was also nurtured, more so the American black culture. There's been no race on this planet that hasn't partaken in slavery. Be it the Romans, be it the Greeks. You have Iskander and Alexander, who conquered most of the known world at the time. You have Genghis and Kublai, who almost repopulated the known world. Everyone's ancestor was either ravaged or killed by Genghis Khan. His blood exists in all of us, or hey, some of us wasn't, we didn't make it to this century. Or some of us just slipped through the cracks. You have Caesar. You have the Gauls, who were subjugated by the Romans, the Celts. All of these people, all slaves. The Egyptians, the Hebrews, Slaves, all slaves. No one put through more torment than the other. No one uh, gone through more, how do I put it, humiliation and detriment than the other. Save when the Africans and the indigenous were put into slavery by American colonizers. Now, from what I just know offhand and through text, Roman and Egyptian history, uh, stuff was fluid back then. But as far as the American colonizers, they broke away so that they could worship. Initially, that was the thing, so they could worship however they saw fit. And with doing so, they were supposed to uphold the codes of the Bible. Their Bible at that point in time. Yet, to subjugate the African slave, they would rape his woman in front of him to let him know that how weak and enfeebled he was. They would force him and the other slaves to watch. They would rape the male. They would find the biggest strapping male they could, and they would rape him. And we're not talking about tool assisted, we're talking about man on man. Some serious homoerotic stuff here. They would rape him in front of other males and his woman to show their dominance. Not unlike a dog. They did all these things so they could dehumanize the slave even more. They couldn't have their children or other people looking at these people for a second. Not even 1 second as people. They were tools. They were product. They were animals. Pets even at best. But they couldn't be human. Because if you allowed them to be human for even a second, the fear of the mass quantities of them outnumbering the colonizers, that was a scary thought. Yeah. So, dogs and animals, they were all alike. But down through the generations, wandering eyes, however, whatever have you, there was some of us that came over, believe it or not, lighter complexion than others. And there were some of us that were created lighter complexions than others. The lighter complected, they got to work in the house and, stay out of the sun. Got to keep them, everything's all white, And then the darker, of course, built for hard labor. That's what they're made for. Made for these weather conditions. So, out in the sun they go. And with that, I mean, obvious things and obvious reasons. Build an anonymity. The darker slaves always looked over at the lighter slaves and they wondered why they were sheltered and protected and cared for more, not knowing the horrors that the lighter slaves went through in the house. But that house always seemed to look better from the outside. And the lighter slaves, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure they looked on out into the field and thought to themselves, man, I'd rather go sleep in the slave huts and be on the outside working than have to endure all these things in the house. Because I'm positive there was comfort, but I'm positive there were prices that had to be paid for said comfort. And then the whole Uncle Tomming thing. How do you address that? Well, so you've had a slave, and then they would tell this slave that you're in control. Your one-eyed Charlies or whoever, you're in control of these slaves. You're better. You're a Negro, but you're better than all these Negroes. See, you can't treat this Negro like you treat all these other Negroes. Because this particular Negro ain't like any of these other Negroes. He'd HNIC. So, I guess that was the first little way of teaching slaves delegation, because he was master's like, man, I got too many slaves and too much to do. So you tell them what to do. Again, building anonymity. Genetic memory is a very real thing. You pass down memories, feelings, emotions through your blood. But you got this black person in charge of other black people, all going through the same struggle. And instead of making it better for his brethren, he makes it harder. Instead of facilitating a way for them to escape, he makes it nigh impossible. Let that sink in for a second. He was put in a position of power, and the first thing he could think to do was abuse said power. And instead of siding with his people, he decided to side with his oppressors, because that seemed like the logical thing for him to do. Programmingly, it was the most logical thing for him to do. Let's fast forward now. We get it down into modern age. People love, and when I say people, I do mean black people. But it's anybody. It's not just confined, but I'm just focusing on black people. People love to see one of their own rise up and do good. Just so much as they are not doing better than them. So, you have it where make it out of the hood. Okay? Because that's where all black people come from, right? You make it out of the hood. You're playing basketball. You make it to the NBA. We'll rewind. You make it to college. Okay, you're on a Division I college team. Everything's great. Your friends around you are able to brag and take pictures with you and stuff like that, and even bullies or kids that you didn't really even mess with. Everybody's able to benefit from knowing you, proximity and stuff, and they're happy for you. You elevate, which we all do as human beings. You elevate, and you make it to the NBA. To be in a better position to not, for lack of a better word, fuck up the church's money. You have to distance yourself from certain elements, because your friends, instead of zigging right, they decided to zig left, and they are continuously going down the path of left. And for you to continue to put yourself in the spotlight. I'm not saying, you have to cut ties with your friends, but for you to continue to put yourself on their social media, put yourself in there, it may cut ties with you and making a living for you and yours. Because it's not what you do, it's what you look like you're doing in this day and age. So now you have to move different. You have to operate different. But all of a sudden, you've changed. You act like you're better than. Oh, you that nigga that the master put in charge now. My genetic memory's telling me that you that Hoppin' Bob, you that Uncle Tom, you that One-Eyed Charlie, you that head nigga in charge, you the nigga that master put in charge. And I despise that nigga for no apparent reason at all, but I despise that nigga. What he eat don't make me shit, and vice versa. But I despise that nigga, and I hope that nigga lose every game of his season. I hope he get cut. I hope he catch an injury. For what? For what? Them being injured, them losing games, them being cut. What does that do for you? Besides put a smile on your face that a fellow African American that came up in the same struggle you did failed? And what message does that send to the rest of the community? That you can work hard as you want to and make it, but in the end, ultimately, you're going to fail. Now let's put that on the other foot. Guy comes back to the hood from the NBA and stuff. Life's not great. Your life is starting to take off. He catches wind that you've always wished upon his downfall, but your life is starting to take off. You're going around him like you guys are still close, you're still tight, everything's all good. You've turned your life around 180, cleaned up your act. You got a legit business now, everything's going good. And he needs to be happy for you, even though you were not happy for him. There's no problem with that logic. Well, he's not happy for you, even though he heard and he found out that you wished for his downfall, and it came to pass. You put that energy out there and it came to pass, and he's not happy for you. He's a hater. That's all there is. He's just a hater. He's jealous of you. And now that's giving you the justification, the validations on your emotions of why you felt some type of way towards him. That's why he got cut. That's why he got injured. That's why he lost. That's why he ain't make it. Because he a hater. And in your mind, you've placed yourself at the head as the hero. Because, after all, aren't we the heroes of our own stories? Yeah. I like to think that. But hey, what do I know? And we teach our children in our community that if we don't speak a certain way, use a certain swag, we're sellouts. I didn't know a race had complete ownership of a way of talking. There's manners of speech here in America. There is slang. There's slang all over the world, but there is slang. Okay? And if you're raised urban, that's you develop your own flow of how you speak. If you're raised educated and your head in the books and you're constantly corrected, you speak educated and proper. But you speak educated and proper in the hood or around community, black community. Hell, even white people. And you sound white. And somewhere along the lines, could have been a couple hundred years after black people were allowed to read. Seeing as niggas wasn't allowed to read. No, we couldn't do that shit. You read, you can spell, you get shot, you get hung. Somewhere along the lines, being able to speak eloquently and intelligently, God addresses being able to speak and sound white. And that can create an identity crisis in some kids. Make them feel fucked up. Make them feel that they're not black enough. So now they feel they gotta do the most to be accepted by the black community because they're not black enough. They don't sound black enough. They don't act black enough. They don't do black enough shit. They lame. Why do they have to be lame? Why do they have to be white acting or talking or sounding? Why can't they be proper? Why can't they be educated? Why can't they be elevated? Why can't they dare to be successful? Because the community tears them down one after another, and the term crabs in a barrel cannot be emphasized enough, as sad as it is. I open up a bread business. Okay. Homemade bread. No preservatives. Better for you. Better for your digestive system. I grind the wheat myself. I put in man hours. I sell it for $1.50 per loaf. Okay, fresh bread. I'm positive that I will have an abundance of family members and friends, and even people that know me by proximity, come to me and want discounts, want free bread. Damn the cost to me and the money lost, but they all want things for free. Even though I'm just starting out this business, mind you. And when they can't get free, I'll probably get a sale or two. I'll probably get a 10% return. They'll go to the store and they'll buy Marita. They'll buy Sara Lee. Okay. They'll buy bread that costs $3, $4 a loaf. Okay, artisan, that fancy ass bread. That's nice though. But they'll go buy that from someone else versus support black owned, one of their own, someone from the community. He think he doing something. He making bread. He selling bread. Who the fuck he think he is? He ain't shit. They would rather see me fail than elevate and succeed. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was something broken in us long ago. During slavery times, maybe it was something broken in us long ago. Back in Africa, or wherever it is that we arrived. Maybe it was something broken in us since the dawn of time, just being man and our culture is just the first to see that recessive trait manifest. And outwardly it spreads to other races too, but mm, who knows? Next up, I would like to take up my bone that I have to pick with the perpetrated lie that is the transgender community. Yeah, I know. Oh, but he did those episodes with the LGBT, and and he spoke so highly of the LGBT. I have no problem with the LGBT. I have no problem with the alphabet gang. I have no problem with gays, bis. I have no problem with lesbians. I have no problem. I have no problem with transsexuals, transgenders who uh, go all out to do things the right way, I believe, and live in their own skin. I have no problem. I have a problem with the perpetrated lie that is the transgender community. It has been exasperated, and it has been placated, and it has been treated as though it is the tell-all, end-all on genders, and I can't. So, let's dive in. I don't know which of you truly believe in your heart of hearts that the passengers of the 9/11 planes, if they knew what they knew then in that moment, the day before, that they would board those planes, not alert the proper authorities, not do anything, and go right along with it and get on those planes. Let that sink in. Would they? No, they wouldn't. And I don't know any of you out there who take this for what it is. Listen to the context of it. It's all going to make sense in a minute. Knowingly sleep with someone without a condom. Okay? Knowing that this person has full-blown HIV and they are viral. You had knowledge of this going into this, and you made this choice. No? None of you? Okay. So, I get back to it. So, how many of you, of my heterosexual listeners, would knowingly sleep with the opposite sex, fully conscious, 100% sure that they are the opposite sex, previously or currently? No? That's where we draw the line. So, transgenders these days are hunting, okay? They're hunting straight people like they're fucking Pokemon, to be honest. Like, a transgender doesn't want a gay man. A transgender woman, they don't want a gay man, no matter what. They do not want a gay man. Follow me? And a transgender man doesn't want a lesbian doesn't want a gay woman. Okay? Tracks. But they do demand that people see them and love them and accept them for who they are after the fact. Okay? That's after the fact, after it all comes out in the wash. That's more of a fifth or sixth date conversation. That's more of a morning breakfast conversation after a toothbrush has been used. That's more of a maybe after down the road, conversation that, hey, I used to be this person, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm a better person now. I'm the person that you want. Not hitting on any firing pins? Okay, it's cool. Break it down for you. Okay. You have a transgender woman. Okay. We'll age them up. We'll say they're slightly older. We have a young man, 20s. Not much younger than a transgender woman, but younger. Okay. Falls heads over, and my bad, I didn't even describe his transgender woman has had the top of the line work done. 10 out of 10. Cannot eyeball it. No seams left loose, nothing. Full on, you know. We'll even go to the point of post op. Just they're good to go. And this transgender woman's able to pull it off in full and, get around things with a young man. And they become happy. Truly. They become happy. Okay. Young man brings the woman home to their mom, their dad. They've been going for a while. So mom and dad are like, oh, when can they expect grandbabies? They're excited. And then the young man just like, you don't know. Transgender woman's kind of nervous about that whole topic. The young man proposes. He's busted his ass. He's in his mid-30s now. Gotten a nice house. They have a comfortable life. He wants to be a father. He has dreams of raising his little kids and, watching his kids be born and just, a perfect life. Genetics, biology, that transgender woman can't do that. So now it's put up or shut up because back's against the wall. Young man wants to start, he wants to start making babies. He wants a family. And now that transgender woman has to tell that young man how they robbed them of the chance for happiness. Because he's happy, but happiness, And now the same trauma that befell the transgender woman of gender dysphoria, not knowing who they were, their identity being crazed. Now the young man has to go through all that because in his mind and in his heart, he was a heterosexual male. And now he has to go through his head and process the fact that he's been sleeping with a, for all purpose and intent, male this whole time. A male that albeit appeared to be a woman, but a male. How do you deal with that? How do you process that? Okay. kind of intense stuff. It's like, you know. And he would not be in the right if he took violent action against that person, but it would be understood. Yet he would be branded with a hate crime. And I'm sure the transgender woman wanted to tell him at some point or another, at this point or that point, but just the way that he looked at her and made her feel, they couldn't bear to do it, and they couldn't find the right time to do it. They let a lie just escape them, and he built a whole life upon a lie. And that is my issue with the transgender community. Your lie does not match your so-called truths. You want someone to see you and accept you for who you are. Then you have to accept even the flamed arrows that come with that. And you have to give people the choice. You can't lie to people. You have to let everyone make their own decision. Now, you're a transgender woman. You're a transgender man. You start talking, day one, whatever. Here's what you do. You let them know. You be like, hello, hi, blah, 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 exchange names, cool. You do know that I am a transgender person. Get your response, whether it's acceptable or not acceptable, whether it's what you were looking for or it wasn't the response you were looking for. Get your response, move on from there. Like, give people the choice. The guy or the girl is gonna be like, okay, that's cool, or they're gonna be like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me, I'm sorry. You'll go through a couple of eggs before you make an omelet. But hey, at least you'll get your omelet. But don't steal someone's future. Don't steal someone's dream. Don't steal someone's life by lying, and giving them hope. Because that same scenario could very well go with a transgender man. A girl or a woman could be thinking that, hey, I'm gonna have kids one day, and never happen. Don't do that. Because that is a truly evil act. Truly selfish act. And an act of what? You're looking for your own happiness? Damn everyone else's. That's not a truth. That's a flat out lie. And that's my only issue. Be true to yourself, put it out front. When I lived in California, and this is the only time I'll touch on this, there were a couple of murders in the city I lived in. Like, there was a couple of murders. Well, not the city, but the county. It was around that area. And they had to do with the transgender community because of that very same scenario, or similar scenario. Transgender did not let someone know that they were transgender, and they had, like I say, impeccable surgery, but they were pre-op. The person found out, and then they snapped. Last I know, they went to prison for a little bit. I don't know what became of them, but they snapped. And that can happen. These are emotions and psychological aspects we're messing with. And again, none of us are equipped to navigate them like that. So why would you put yourself in danger? Why would you put someone else in a position to put you in danger? Live your truth. I was born a man. I would like to be viewed as a woman. Do you feel that you have it in you to do that? I was born a woman. I would like to be viewed as a man. Do you feel that you have it in you to do that? These are simple aspects that, like I said, it's too easy. Just live your truths. And last but not least, preference. Okay. Preference. I'm all for inclusion. I'm all for equality. But sex is involved. Your sexual orientation and preference is involved. And this does, like I say, if my little boy wants to be a little boy, it ain't because he wants to be a little boy. It's because he was born a little boy. I'm not oppressing him or abusing him. He was born a male genetically. He does little boy shit naturally. I don't dress him in dresses. I don't put him out there to do, things. If he wants to play with a doll, I'm not gonna snatch a fucking doll out of his hand. But plays with trucks, transformers. He plays with all types of shit. He's a little boy. My little girl wants to be a little girl. She can be a little girl. Now, when they are 17, 16, 18, those years, those formative years, and they're deciding that, hey, they're kind of different from everybody else, okay. Especially if they're 19, 20, 21, okay. If they decide that, hey, this is my life and this is what I want to do and this is how I want to operate and how I want to move, how I want to be, how I want to be viewed, okay. What changes them from being my children? Not one fucking thing. But I'll be damned if you put your reverse prejudice on my children. It's important for children to learn about transgenders and how to include. No, it's not. So you want that because you want the respect. So that's the lie that, again, lies that are sold. But that's simple. Kids already learned that. That's ABC shit. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat others with respect. Covers everything. That covers every fucking thing. My child doesn't need to know that, oh, I'm getting gender confused at the age of 4 or 5 or 6. That women are women, men are men, and sometimes men become women and sometimes women become men, and not all boys are boys, some boys are girls, and no, fuck that. Let my child be a child. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to sex. It comes down to what people want sexually. Plenty of male friends. I love every last one of them. Do I want to take any of them to bed? No. But I love them. So it's not a love thing. So let's get that off the table. It's not a love thing. It's a sex thing. And that's really all I have to say on that. Like, be true to who you are. I mean, That's your identity. That's who you are. That's how you feel on the inside, and you want that to be portrayed on the outside, and you want to feel like you're in your own skin for it, be comfortable. But most of you, your whole thing is that your parents abused you. Your parents psychologically abused you because you felt like this way. You felt like you should have been wearing dresses. You felt like a little girl. You felt like a little boy. And they made you dress like your assigned gender. And they made you, do this and that. And they made you, well, you're doing the same thing or attempting to, but just with a softer touch. You know, just because I lace poison with Kool-Aid, yeah, I said that exactly how I meant it. Like, it's not, I'm putting poison in Kool-Aid, because Kool-Aid, everybody loves Kool-Aid. But no, not everybody loves poison. Just because I lace poison with Kool-Aid doesn't mean that you know, you should drink it. That shit still sucks. You're gonna die. Your parents fed you poison. Don't poison my children. Allow them to be children. So what? You were born different. So what? It can be spotted at a young age. Cool. Who's to say if your parents didn't push one way, you wouldn't have turned out the other? Let my kids be kids. And yeah, this again, I'm sorry for revisiting, but that's all I have to say on that. Moving on. I feel like this country is one of the greatest countries in the world. Truly. I do. I've fought for this country. I've bled for this country. I've sweated for this country. We cannot make it through another 4 years of this, though. And I hate getting heavy political, but we can't. Stock market is in the toilet. There is no real place for retirement. In the past year, I've seen more people come back to the workforce from retirement than I care to count. People that are old enough to be my grandparents. People that are old enough to be my parents. It's insanity. Economically, the way our country is set right now, it is set to burn. And you're getting to a point to where you have the haves and you have the have-nots. And with the haves, they're going to be comfortable, they're going to live, they're going to thrive. With the have-nots, man, you are going to have people, they're going to knock over people hand and foot. It's like the Joker said, when the going gets tough, you'll see who the real monsters are. You've got your everyday guy that puts on his uniform, goes to work every day, earns a check for his people, and then when he can't buy a loaf of bread and he can't buy a gallon of milk and shit gets tough and he has to put bills on the table, what left is there? What choices are really being given? You have to be rich. I mean, insanely rich. Or you have to be a criminal. And I guess this is the point to where it's going to be people, I don't know, they're living long enough to see themselves become the villain. And that's sad and tragic. This country needs course correction. It needs to get back to the days of where they're seeing prosperity, where they're seeing growth, where they're seeing life actually thrive. Even on the precipice of all these wars, we need to grow and come together as a people. Black people need to heal. White Americans need to allow black people to heal. Black people need to heal. And they need to accept white Americans for who they are, not for who their predecessors were. White Americans need to accept what their predecessors have done, truly, not deflect, accept. And they need to accept that they're not who their predecessors were, and they never will be. And they need to accept the time and the process that it's going to take for them and black people, black Americans, to come together with them. The unity needs to happen, but piece by piece. Then you have your Asian Americans, and the 40s was really fucking horrible on them. Then you have your Hispanic Americans, and they're just as integral to the infrastructure of this country as anyone else. I hate that freaking dog. So, yeah. We got a lot to do as a country. We got a lot of ways to grow as a country. And I know this has seemed like some long drawn out rant, but I dare any of you to tell me that anything I've said has not been true. So, you know, that is my daughter being upset at the world, and a beautiful thing. All the evils and horrors of the world is left to me and her mother to accept. She doesn't have to know or worry about all those horrible things. We will though. Blissfully ignorant. Consumed in her own universe, and that's alright. That's what parents are for. But as Americans, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, other, we have to do better. We can't let the genocide of the indigenous people happen to anyone else. We can't let things continue to slip away. We have to do better. We have to be united. Or separately. We're gonna fall. But I guess we'll have to leave that in God. Because in God we trust.